Hey, what up guys? Welcome back to another video, baby. This is another MMA breakdown. In today's video, we're talking about Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz 3 at UFC 219. 219. You know, Conor McGregor, he's going to fight Nate Diaz part 3. Conor McGregor tapped out in the first fight. Conor McGregor won the second fight. Okay, some people say if there was more time in the last round of the 5th round of Conor would have got submitted because he got taken down by Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz in this fight, in the second fight, was going more for takedowns, which normally he's not a takedown artist. He's not taking people down Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style and just taking him down. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. If the fight gets to the ground, he can submit people, but he's not a wrestler, so that's where the Diaz brothers always have failed. But Conor versus Nate Diaz 3, I think it should be Conor versus Khabib or Conor versus Tony Ferguson, because I think Tony Ferguson would give him a hell of a run for his money. A lot of people say the trilogy fight. Conor gassed in the first fight and lost. Nate Diaz submitted him. Nate Diaz went all 5 rounds with him in the second fight, and Nate Diaz boxed him up in the cage. When he was up against the cage, he was just landing punches and bunches. And when you had Conor McGregor, for example, Conor McGregor was landing a lot of heavy shots and a lot of power shots on the outside and knocked Nate Diaz down at least 3 or 4 times in that fight. Conor McGregor is a hell of a beast of a fighter. We've seen him fight 145, 155, 170. A lot of people are still saying, well, Conor needs to fight at 155 and defend his title against Nate Diaz at 155. But people are not realizing Nate Diaz is a true 155er. He's not a 145er. He's not a 170. Okay? Nate Diaz is a dude that's going to throw down, a dude that's going to be up in his face. Nate Diaz is probably going to make $3-4 million for this fight. Nate Diaz needs to come forward, needs to finish him fast and quick. I think this is going to be more of a hell of a boxing match, because I don't know if this boxing training that Conor has been doing for the Floyd Mayweather fight is going to play dividends in this fight, because you look at it this way, he hasn't thrown kicks, knees, and elbows in a fight in a long time. The last MMA fight he had was UFC 205, and they're already talking about 219. So he hasn't fought in mixed martial arts, I think, since 2016, maybe, to early part of 2017. I don't know exactly when he fought Eddie Alvarez, but the bottom line is Conor McGregor fighting Nate Diaz. I think Nate Diaz can beat him. Nate Diaz has beat him. I think Nate Diaz can beat him if it goes to the ground. I don't think the fight's going to go to the ground, because we know in this fight that Nate Diaz is not a great wrestler. He doesn't take his opponents to the ground that often, and Conor McGregor, he's not getting taken down, and he's not going for takedowns. He's standing, kicking, knee, and elbow, and his main focus in MMA is this. He stands here, and he boxes up. So I think this fight's going to be pretty much like the second fight, but I would love to see Nate Diaz win the title. I'm a fan of both fighters, but if Nate Diaz wins this belt, it will be the first time that Nate Diaz has ever won a belt. His brother was a Strikeforce middleweight champion of the world, and if Conor loses, will they have a 4th fight? I don't want to see a 4th fight, but I know the UFC would make it happen because Conor's the man, and they'd go, yeah, we'll make a 4th fight. No, it should be Tony Ferguson getting a title fight. That's what I think. It should be Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz if Nate wins. But it's going to be Tony Ferguson coming up against Kevin Lee, I think it is. And Kevin Lee is a beast of his own right. But overall, this is going to be a hell of a fight. Both fighters are going to throw down. Both fighters come forward. The chat talking is going to be off the charts. They don't need to do no press conferences. They just need to have these 2 guys show up and fight. Nate Diaz needs to come out there very vicious and very violent to win this fight. He needs to come out there with the Stockton boxing. That's the way he needs to do it. Whoa! Whoa. So with that being said, guys, remember to rate, even if you hate, comment, and subscribe. My cat was trying to jump up here where I have my camera, and he almost knocked my camera off like he knocked it over. But anyways, guys, like I said, I think Conor versus Nate Diaz 3, it's an okay fight. I'm not really keen on it. Like I said, I think Conor should be fighting like Tony Ferguson or somebody else like that. I had a conversation with this girl on Twitter, and she's a big MMA fan, and she goes, nah, Nate Diaz needs to be competing for a title. I'm like, yeah, he does, but I've already seen that fight twice. We've already seen what happened. Nate Diaz versus Conor it is a pretty good, decent fight. I'll say that it's an exciting fight. You got the two biggest draws in MMA, the two biggest draws in the business, but Tony is a guy that's on like a 9-fight win streak, okay? He's almost 9 or 10 fight win streak. That's the kind of guy I want to see fighting for a title. I don't want to see Nate Diaz, who fights like once or twice a year, do it. Would this mean Nate Diaz would be a guy who would actually defend his title 3 to 4 times a year? I don't know, man, because Conor never defends his title. Zero, zip, nada. I don't even think he defended his title when he was in Cage Warriors. So the bottom line is, we need to see Conor lose, so the actual division that he holds the title in, the 155-pound division, can succeed, and people can get title fights. And people, they say Conor's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. No, he's not. He might be beating a lot of people, but he's not a champion that defends his title. You have Demetrius Johnson defending his title. You have Michael Bisping defending his title. You have all these other champions defending their title. You had Tyron Woodley defending his title. Those guys are true champions. They go out there and they compete and they fight and they defend their titles. They're not going, okay, I have a title now. Now I'll go up to heavyweight. Now I'll go to light heavyweight. Now I'll go to middleweight. They don't do that. They fight at their weight class and they defend their title. And that's one thing that bothers me about Nate Diaz, is he's fighting Conor, and Conor is his first opponent for his title will be Nate Diaz, right? I feel that Nate Diaz will defend his title as a champion. I believe he has the heart to defend it. His brother, Nick, when he was a champion, defended his title a bunch of times. But the bottom line is, Conor's never defended his title. And it's getting sick and tired of all of these fighters going, we got to make interim title fights, because nobody is getting a title fight against Conor McGregor. And if you're a champion, it's like Ric Flair said, to be the man, you got to beat the man, right? But also, like Ric Flair says, to be a champion, you got to defend your title and beat the competition and beat the men that are coming up. That's why Demetrius Johnson is getting so much better as a fighter, is because he's fighting the cream of the crop, the best guys in his division. He's whooping them, but he's showing that he's a champion, and he's going to be 11-0 as a champion, and that's a beast right there. That's a beast. You say Conor McGregor, okay, he's 0-0 as a champion. That's basically what he is. He's an 0-0 champion. That's why you have fighters like Demetrius, they defend their titles. You had people like Anderson Silva, they went 10 times as a champion. So at the bottom line is, like Tony Ferguson said, Conor has to defend his title. He's keeping the division at a place where it shouldn't be, at a standstill. But Nate versus Conor 3, it's going to be a great fight. I'm going to tune in to watch it. I'm going for Nate Diaz over Conor. I'm a big fan of both people, but I think it's time for Nate Diaz to shine. And this is Nate Diaz's second title in the UFC. His first title fight was against Benson Henderson, and Benson Henderson beat him by the wrestling and just basically outmaneuvered him with the wrestling. And that's one way to beat a Diaz brother, if you'll want to fight him, is to beat him on the ground by the wrestling. If you're going to beat him on the feet, that's very hard to do, because Diaz brothers, they love when it gets to that very vicious, violent, like boxing up against the cage and the clinch. They like that kind of stuff. They like traditional style boxing. They don't like when like GSP wrestles them to the ground and lays and prays on them. That's boring. I really believe that's a boring fight. If Conor just came in there and laid and prayed on him, that's boring. But I don't think Conor's going to do that. I think Conor's going to come out there with some leg kicks, some punches and bunches. But my name is Trevor. As always, I will definitely see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.